It's not a make or break for me. Good question.
All right, ready to roll? You're the boss. I call this board meeting, USD 49 of Education, Board of Education board meeting for Monday, August 19th, 2019 to order. The second item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved by Board Member Adams, seconded by Board Member Oborny. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No nays. Okay, the motion passes 5-0. Second item on the agenda, third item on the agenda is the budget hearing. Item 3.1, fiscal year 2020 notice of budget hearing. The governing body of USD 49 will meet on the 19th day of August 2019 at 6:30 p.m. at 323 West 12th Street for the purpose of hearing and answering objections of taxpayers related to the proposed objections from taxpayers related to the proposed use of all funds and the amount of tax to be levied. Detailed budget information, including the budget profile, is available at Rockwell Administrative Center and will be available at this hearing. At this point, I'll turn this over to Ron or Keith to provide more discussion.
You bet. Thank you. Okay, and there is, we have some handouts here. I think Jess has them for this budget summary called Budget at a Glance, if you'd like to see those for board member. And there's some copies of the this document that Mike read off of for mill levies and budgeted amounts. So I've also highlighted the mill levies on those. All the board members should have a copy in front of you there. The best method to review the budget is to talk about this, what's called the Code 99. This comes off the KSD budget document, and this is what we published in the paper. At the conclusion of the discussion, I will ask you to approve the budget as presented, but of course we'll discuss it. I do want to mention that budgeting is an estimate. Our estimate is based on the prediction of numbers of students and the weightings they will bring. The state calculates the final numbers of what we receive from our yearly audit. So I will predict what we have, and then they'll count them up and tell us for sure how much money we're going to receive. My practice is to publish the maximum amount so we have authority to spend what we receive, even though we won't spend all the listed amounts here, especially capital outlay especially. I'll review the funds in sequential order according to your sheet. If you look at the second column from the left, it lists the fund number under Code 99, if you can see that. You can see the state came through for us with the increased funds they've been talking about in our general fund at Code 6. That's the first one we'll look at. Surprisingly, with the transfers we'd like to make to increase our cash balances in some of our funds, as well as possible salary increases, the additional funds, which we're certainly delighted to have and receive, does not go as far as one would think. I might mention we're required to spend or transfer all the money we receive in the general fund. So that's comparison between this year and last year for our general fund there in front of you. And I'll just go through these and ask for questions when we finish up the codes. Next is Code 8, which is our supplemental general fund. The great news about Code 8 is we're generating similar amount of money that we did last year, and our mill rate has actually fell a little bit. Our mill levy fell because of our, I'm not coming up with the word right now, I'll come back to that. Our valuation rose just a little bit, so that's taking the pressure off the mill levy. And we are carrying over some cash balances in that fund, which we will try to spend down because we need to do that because we won't get authority to spend it. We're capped on what we can spend, so we'll spend some of those cash balances down in that particular fund. And like I said, I've highlighted those mill levies for you. Code 7 is our federal funds, which you can see has increased significantly. That fund the fund estimates include the $1.47 million grant for the early childhood program for the work we're doing out there. Funds 11 through 55 are what we call our special funds. We were able to increase the budget for each of those funds. I should mention I did budget the 8 mills for capital outlay this year, which is code 16. We depend on capital outlay budget pretty heavily. Last year there's just a slight increase. It was 7.998. This year I'm recommending 8 mills. With a decrease in the supplemental general fund mill levy, our overall mill rate will be slightly reduced by 0.68 mils. Okay, let's see. Also in our code 30, which is our local special ed budget, of that 5.1 million listed, 3.2 is flow-through money from the federal government that comes through the state, comes to general, goes through our special ed, and this just goes right out to fund special ed. And 1.7 of that amount is our payment to the co-op, our individual school district payment to our co-op. Okay, so last thing in the budget piece is I want to mention is the document we're looking at right here down at the bottom. We did lower the rec commission mill levy that's run through the school district. We did not need as much as published, so you can reduce those down. I've been talking to Roger about that, so what you'll approve tonight is less. It's about half of, in the, should be specific, the Rec Commission Employee Benefits Fund, which is a separate fund. It's listed at .707 is about half of what we published it at. So.
What code line was that?
That would be, good question, that would be down, look at 120.
Okay, got you.
86 and
I see it
120
now.
is a rec commission.
Okay, thanks.
Okay?
Yep.
Questions?
Just to clarify, I see where the federal money came in on the grant. Where do we count the payments we're making on what we did for
Oak
the
Park.
early childhood? Yeah, Oak Park.
That'll come out of capital outlay.
Okay. That's what I'm sure where it was
Yep.
showing up.
And that was my understanding, that was the plan all along.
Okay. Okay.
And we did, I might end the little visit here is with that we ended up not counting capital outlay, which is kind of a restricted fund on what you can spend it on. We were up $292,000 in our cash balances, which is what we put in contingency this year. So we were up a little bit. Any other questions?
Any more questions, folks?
Okay.
Ron, do we need a vote on this to approve tonight?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And I would make one comment. I don't really have a question. I just would like to thank Keith for all the work that he put into this. He put in a lot of hours. He was here on a lot of Saturdays and Sundays to get this put together, so thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Keith, that's been great. It's very clear information. Thank you. All right. We need a vote.
Mr. President,
Yes.
as a matter of procedure, you need to elicit any comments
Oh,
from the
you're right,
public
yes.
before you approve the budget.
Okay. Let me do that now, and I'll ask for a motion and discussion. But if there's anyone from the audience who'd like to stand up and come forward, I should say, and if you have any comments about the budget, please do so. Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and call for a motion to approve the budget as presented.
I'll move to approve the FY20 budget as presented.
All right, it's been moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any more discussion among board members? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No nays. Passes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 0. All right, now moving to point 3.2 on the agenda, fiscal year 2000 budget review. Keith Hall will present a budget for review and public comment, followed by the board approval of FY20. Or did we already do this?
That's what.
It was all combined. Okay, we had 2 points in the agenda. Now I'm moving on to 4.0, consent agenda. This is approval of the consent agenda. Items to be approved are board meeting minutes for August 6, 2019, personnel transactions, and financials. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right. Moved by Board Member Adams. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mandy. Ask for any discussion. I have a few comments, but, okay.
You can go first.
Discussion point. Want to highlight, we have 3 retirements in the personnel transactions. Michael Howell, 15 years of service in the Transportation Department. Carrie Bassinger, 10 years of service in the Custodial Department. And Carla Bieber, 29 years of service in the Special Education Department. I want to thank all of these 3 individuals for service to the district. Okay, any other comments?
The only other question I had
Sure.
was on Carla's, we have an effective retiree date of August 31st of 2020. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So she has to get the award for giving us the most notice?
Yeah, that's true. I was like, yeah, she must be excited.
Hey, that's okay. Tell her we'll take that every day of the
Yeah,
week, so.
yeah.
That's very good. And I want to make sure I announce it today, though, because I hate to get in the rush at the end of the year and forget to point that out, so.
I understand.
All right, any other comments? All right. Call for a vote. All in favor of passing the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Did I do that too quickly? Okay, that's 6 to 0. Okay, now we're moving on to the fun part of the meeting. Recognitions. Recognition. We're recognizing the Hayes High football team and USD 49 custodial and maintenance team. Ron, do you want to take it from here?
Yeah, we get the football guys in here?
They were having so much fun.
Come on
You guys,
in.
come on up. Come on up here, in the front, middle. You can stand right there in the
Make
middle.
sure you get on
back
TV.
there. Yeah.
That's Ron, if you wanted us to go up there, nah, it's too much of a house to get us all. Okay, he'll do it.
Okay, last Tuesday night, we had a little excitement at Hayes, and I had to disappoint a bunch of guys or boys, and we called off school on Wednesday, and they took their day off and helped around the community in helping some individuals as well as some organizations, I believe, do some community service in terms of cleaning up. I just wanted to take the time this evening to bring into our board meeting and recognize them for their efforts. Guys, I can't tell you how proud that makes me to be a part of this district and have guys like you representing, you know, our district on the football field, but also representing in the community and just displaying first-class effort. And I have, you know, and these, it doesn't going to mean anything to you guys, but I've been talking to our staff a little bit about some core values that are important that we show at all times. And one of those core values is carrying the banner for your school and district. I really felt like you guys exhibited that in the you know, utmost way for just representing our school and our district in a first-class manner. And that is such a positive, and it should not go unnoticed. So really want to thank you guys, and also thank you because they were out in the heat today from 3:30 to 5:30, and then came to here, that was probably not their desire to come to a meeting. But I do appreciate you guys also taking the time to come here and let us recognize you. I'm going to turn it over to Coach Crow, and he can say a few words and brag on these guys for a little bit as well.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
You bet.
Yeah, no, I really proud of these guys. I sent out the message early on Wednesday morning to get out of bed and go help someone, and they jumped at it. This is about a fourth of the team right here, but guys, they can make it out tonight, and thank you guys for getting out and allowing us to be recognized and get bragged on. Thank you for having us, Mr. Wilson and board. Proud of these guys. They could have shied away from it. We had, I think we had roughly 70 members of the football team out in the community on Wednesdays. So this isn't why we did it, to get the recognition, but anytime our guys get bragged on, we're happy for them. So we had 93 players out the first day of practice today, and it's really hot, and we got some good work done, and we're glad to get out and help the community. If anybody's looking for what they can do to give back and help our football program, please let us know. We've got some needs to take us to the next level and be a program that can be top notch in the state. So we're getting there. Hopefully next time we'll recognize the first state championship. So
That would be so cool.
thank you so much for having us, and thank you. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Yeah.
Thank
Well
you.
done. Thanks. The interesting thing also, and this is, I don't know if these guys even know this, KSN News out of Wichita, they were here during Wednesday to film footage, and actually one of the news guys got a hold of me, said, is there anything else going on in the community that, and I said, yeah, I've got a football team, and he was all about getting footage. Well, the problem is, when he got ready to film some more footage, he found out that his card on his camera was corrupt. And so your 15 minutes of fame, or 5 minutes, or 30 seconds of fame went down the tubes with that. But I wish we could have got you on the news.
I appreciate you saying that, Mr. Wilson, because they thought I lied to them.
No,
I
that's
told them that they were pretty skeptical, but you guys heard it.
so true. Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
And we should be staying around, by the way, and thanking the custodial staff, because these guys, they really need to tell these guys thank you as well. So.
Okay.
Okay, that's it. Thanks, guys.
Great job, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Thanks again to the football team. That's fantastic support and contributions to the community. All right. Next up is our district USD 49 custodial and maintenance staff. Ron.
Okay, we got our next set of heroes. I'd like for you guys to come on up here. I know this is not their thing at all either, but you guys, you got to come up here in the front.
Anywhere you want to be. That's good.
This is part of our custodial crew. I don't believe this is all of them by any means, but we got a few of them, and hopefully they will share the message back with their cohorts tomorrow and share that we really do appreciate what they did. Like I said, last week we had a storm that really wreaked havoc on all of our schools in some capacity. Some took the hit worse than others, but the great thing is these guys worked as one unit, and they jumped in at other schools even though that wasn't their school and it was after hours. And it's just unbelievable the teamwork that went into fixing up, repairing some of the damage, broken windows, sucking up water, picking up broken glass, you name it, picking up debris, sticks, limbs that had blown off. And they did most of these guys worked till well after midnight on Tuesday night and were there first thing Wednesday morning. And then just to play another cruel trick, Mother Nature decided to wreak havoc on a Saturday night, and these, I don't know. I think we're cursed because, or we got leaky windows or something. I don't know. We had more leaks on Saturday night that required these guys to either be there Saturday night or Sunday for part of their weekend to do some more cleanup. So this is a tremendous bunch. Sometimes they don't like recognition like this, so I kind of feel like I'm forcing them to be a little uncomfortable. Kathy, I would like to share my story again. Are you okay with that? No, not at all. That's an inside joke from our back to school in service. So just a great bunch of people. You guys don't get enough credit for what you do, and we would just like to recognize you and thank you for your efforts. So please.
Yep, there we go.
You guys are driving the bus, man. You're driving the bus. Good job. Thanks.
Get to vote.
Yeah, we're driving the boat. There you go.
Vote now.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
He's gonna run around, shake hands. I think 20 minutes to get around this table. All right. Fantastic. All right, let's move to the next point on the agenda, which is our public forum. So anybody would like to get up and make any comments to the board, other than budget issues, I guess? Okay. Move to the next point of the item on the agenda, presentations. We have one from Shane Smith, Commerce Bank, regarding investment strategies. Ron, go ahead and say something
yeah,
first.
I'll kind of lead into Shane's presentation, and I'll let him make some introductions. We met with Shane, Ryan, and I'm drawing Raymond a few weeks ago on some investment strategies for the district, and it was I think a really good meeting. And basically they were sharing with us there were some things that we could be doing district-wide to help take advantage of our earning potential. It was Keith, myself, and Renee Booth back in the back, and she does not want to be on camera. She already told me that. So, we met with them and talked about a strategy that our district could take advantage of in order to earn some more dollars based upon what we have in some of our cash reserves. Now, before I let Shane get into the meat of the conversation, I think sometimes it's always important to preface comments like these because sometimes people don't quite understand why a school district should have so much money in a bank, and they think, well, maybe we need to be giving more to teachers or cutting our taxes a little bit. Well, there's a reason why school districts, you know, we're a $26 million budget, and we have to have a pretty healthy cash balance to run an operation like this. And I think sometimes it's important that people understand why we have the cash balances we do. And I think the first thing is we just need cash flow. We have large bills, and as board members, you guys are aware, I don't know if the community is always aware how expensive everything gets. I mean, just payroll is unbelievable how much money we spend every month in payroll. Then you just have utilities and insurance payments and you name it. There's some really big. So we have to have a lot of money in the bank just to make some very healthy payments. You know, I think also we have some of our cash balances because occasionally you have storms like last Tuesday, and sometimes we're very lucky we didn't get a roof ripped off. Right. But had we got a roof, you know, we would have probably needed some cash to repair some of that. Of course, we'd have an insurance claim, but we would need, you know, some deductibles to be met in order, probably some other things that maybe we'd need to do at that same time. And also there's those planned expenses that you have down the road that we have an old boiler. there's a good chance that that old boiler at some point is not going to be able to run, or we're going to need some expensive repairs to it. So you have those large cash balances for that. We also have those cash balances for revenue loss, because occasionally the state does cut funding, and it has happened. And sometimes you need to have those cash balances to offset some of that revenue loss. And we also, and we hope this never will happen, but sometimes school districts, we run a lot of people through our schools. And so sometimes there is some legal costs that could come through our operation. And we got to have some cash balances to take care of things like that. I think Keith made a good point, and he talked about spending some of our cash balances to buy down the LOB a little bit, so we can keep our mill rate flat. And I think that was a good strategy on Keith's part, to keep that mill levy, just even dropped it a little bit. And then I think also, and this is where Shane's going to get into, is when you have cash balances, you can earn more money off the cash balances you have, and you're just being smart with your money. And I think that's what Shane's going to talk to you a little bit about, a strategy that we have just recently put in place, and is just going to share the information with you. I will add this, and I talked to Renee today. We put this strategy in place, I don't even know what the first day, last week, Thursday, and over the weekend, between Thursday and this weekend, we have made $600 in interest. Now, if you pay attention to your board packets and have paid any attention over the last, we usually make $600 a month in interest. We just made $600 in 3 days. And that's just, we're not doing anything different other than we are just using our cash balances that we need to have on hand for lots of different reasons, and just making some dollars. And then what those dollars will help us do, they're going to help us make, we may not have to do a lease purchase on a project, because we'll just be able to use some of our profit earnings to buy some things outright. So Shane, I've probably said more than I should, but I will let you take over.
Appreciate it, Ron, and you actually covered just about everything I was going to cover right there. So I'll just go ahead and go to questions, right? Just kidding. First off, thanks administration, Ron, for the opportunity, and the Board of Education for the opportunity to come up and provide some information for you. Commerce Bank has appreciated this partnership that we've had over the years, and really understand and know how important it is as far as delivering on the mission and the goals of the district, and how important that is to the community. So we commend you guys for all your hard work and effort in seeing that through. So we appreciate all of your efforts. Just a little bit about Commerce Bank. On page 2, we have a slide there that talks just a little bit about the bank and some of our highlights. 3 things really to take away from this. I'm not going to spend time, you guys can read through it, but really 3 things are strength, diversification, and longevity. Those are 3 things that I'd point to your attention to and take away from that slide. Slide 3 is kind of the banking model that we pursue. This is a community banking model that really uses a local approach in the markets we serve, and but we have the leverage of expertise and knowledge and a very large toolkit to get the job done. Page 4 is your relationship team. So by no means am I the one-all contact and or individual that works with the district. We have Darren O'Connor, who's with us, market president. Myself, Raymond Hass is here locally as well in the Hayes market. Amity Marr, who's with us tonight, as well as Ryan Box, both specialists that help us serve the state of Kansas. And then Candace is not with us also, but she provides a lot of support on the backside. We too take a long-term view with regard to this and all relationships. We take a proactive approach to inform the district of challenges and opportunities when they arise. And we have a track record of trying to be responsive to the district's needs and when anything new comes up. On slide 5, you'll see an illustration of what we wanted to talk about a little bit tonight. But first, a little bit of housekeeping. I'm sure you will get around to reading the disclosures at the bottom of the page, that fine print down there. Something I do have to make sure and disclose, neither we as individuals or as the Commerce Bank as a whole is a municipal advisor. That's what you guys have a financial advisor for. We are not a municipal advisors. We don't provide municipal advice or investment advice. The illustration that is provided was to show a concept that had been discussed at the district level. And over the last few years, we've had some general conversations about the impact of rising interest rates. And we know that those deposits have more value as rates go up. And that was a general conversation we've had since about early 2017 as rates were increasing. Of course, the staff has changed a little bit over that time. But we were able to have a good opportunity, a good conversation, and really kind of work through what were some things that we see with other school districts and other municipalities, and provide the district with the administration with some information, and allow them to choose whatever direction they wanted to pursue. So really what you'll see on the left side of that screen is the historical strategy, which has been for the district to utilize an earnings credit to offset any and all costs of the banking relationship. On the right side is kind of the going forward strategy, which will play, you can zoom in, is a combination of a daily sweep function to sweep out and sweep back in on a daily basis, and then a small ladder strategy, ladder CD strategy. And those are two common concepts that we see districts, school districts and municipalities use. Those were two that seemed to make sense for the administration, and is a snapshot in time. This was, some of these numbers were derived earlier in the month, obviously, based on total invested and dollar amounts. But as the district's cash balances change, obviously, for outlay and other obligations of the district, those actual returns will vary. The other aspect is interest rates can change from time to time. So the sweep function will be variable based on what the market rate is at that time. And the ladder strategy, as the near-term units mature, they'll go, if they're renewed, they'll go to the back of the line at whatever the market rate is at that time. So with that, there's some basic information toward the bottom of that slide with some average, some additional detail. This is just a snapshot in time again. These are not actual return numbers. It's very dependent upon a number of variables. But it is an opportunity for the district to utilize their cash balances in a more responsible, meaningful, efficient manner. So with that, I'd open it up to any questions.
Those rates will only go up, right, Shane?
If I was in control, sure.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
So just to make sure I understand, I know CDs are typically locked in, and I see your terms here and everything. The sweep account, that is set up that we can still access if need to be?
Yeah, so that's a daily function. So those funds are out during the day and back in by the end of the day. So as the district has obligations, those will settle out each evening. And whatever cash is available the next day, repeat over and over again.
And I'm assuming part of the reason I'm looking at this timeline here, my guess is your projection is that we would always have some cash readily available in the next 30 days or something.
That is the concept, the idea behind the concept of a ladder CD. The district came up with their own, or the administration came up with their own time horizon and balances to pursue there. But those are, that's the idea.
Makes sense.
Just notice the 31,500, is that down, looking on the right side here, down towards the bottom. So the yield was 111,213, and is that 31,500 your fees that you collect?
Not entirely. That is the way that it's set up now in the past historical strategy has been to utilize an earnings credit rate to offset and not incur any fees. And so that is what covers the cost of those fees. So in the calculation, yes, it is offsetting what we are, the trade-off from using an earnings credit rate. So the actual fees are a little bit less than that. So the district will actually show those fees going forward, so we'll be able to show what those are, and that will net out in the end.
Okay. All right.
And those are all based on volume.
All right.
Thank you much, guys. I'm a little fuzzy on whose original concept or idea this was, but congratulations and good work to everyone involved, because
They came to Shane and
Yeah, we've, like I said earlier, we've proactively tried to let the district know what the change in interest rates means to the district and what is the opportunity cost. So we wanted to see what other districts are doing and what other municipalities are doing, so we tried to stay consistent, look at similar types of strategies, and let the district choose whatever was best for them.
appreciate it. Thank
Were
you.
other people
You bet.
doing something different than CDs to invest?
I don't personally work with other districts. Ryan, do you want to comment? Sure. On what other districts or other municipalities are doing? Yeah, sure.
Sure thing. Come on up.
So as the question is, what are other municipalities doing? Product-wise, it's very, very similar. They may have a 3-month, 6-month, 9-month, and 12-month ladder, or they could have something out all the way out to 2 years, depending on their cash flows and their needs. Product-wise, it is, again, very similar. Sometimes they'll use, instead of CDs, they'll use what's called term repos, and so the repo is a one-night investment, but they'll do that over a termed period, similar to a CD, but the collateralization is the same, and that's the one thing that's very important for the school district, is that the collateralization has to be according to Kansas state statutes.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you very much for coming in. You bet. And Renee, thank you too for your hard work on that. All right, let me get back to the agenda here. Hang on a second. Okay, our next presentation, Marie Henderson and Kyle Carlin Flex, Learning/Professional Development. Ron, do you want to say something first?
You bet. We just got a lot of great things going on. From football teams cleaning up storm damage to custodians who worked all a bunch of extra hours, and some investment strategies. Now we're getting into the real good stuff, because this is really going to help teachers and going to help kids. I was very impressed this summer coming in, just the first couple weeks. There was a professional development opportunity that was happening right here in this boardroom. It was led by two of our finest, Marie Henderson and Kyle Carlin. They have put together a professional development opportunity for staff, which is called Flex Learning. And basically it just is giving professionals who are trying to get better at their craft an opportunity to pick and choose what they want to get better at, as opposed to the traditional professional development opportunity where we, bring everybody into a room and we just shove it down their throats and make them like it, right? So Marie and Kyle are just phenomenal. They did 8 days of awesome, and it really was 8 days of awesome. And so I wanted to bring them here to have them share. Guys, this is cutting edge. This really is. This isn't going on in every district, and they'll probably downplay it a little bit, but they're doing some really cool stuff here. So wanted them to be recognized, because this is truly what it's all about. We're going to help teachers, you're going to help students, and that's truly what we're trying to get across here. So Marie, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. So this first slide just has some information about the different opportunities that we had this summer for teachers here in the district. That first opportunity was Ed Camp, and that was our second annual Ed Camp, and it was actually offered to teachers across the state of Kansas, and we had 90 educators at Hayes High on June 4th who participated in breakout sessions that were designed by them, created by them, and facilitated by them throughout that day. And we did that last summer, and we're pleased to do it again this summer, and are looking for ways to expand it in summers to come. So we'll do that again, I'm sure. Also, this is our second summer of having book studies. Those are facilitated through online communities that the district hosts in our Office 365 portal. And Marty Straub and Shauna Zweifel and Jenny Weilert and Tracy Archer all led book studies for us, and we had 55 educators in the district participate in those, and the district provided the books for those educators. And they added to online discussion throughout 8 weeks of the summer. And then we moved into 8 days of awesome. Shanna and I were meeting one day to discuss summer professional learning, and she's like, only 8 days. And I'm like, yes, that's going to be so much better. And in previous summers, we have done weeks of professional learning and just decided that it wasn't meeting our needs. And we were doing a lot of everyone sit and listen. And won't you all like all the things I say every moment that I say them? And we knew it wasn't meeting our needs, and I said it's going to be an awesome 8 days, and eventually out of that came 8 days of awesome. And I told my husband that I wasn't cool enough to say things like that, but we ran with it. So regardless, if you want to scroll on down there, this first slide does show one of the flex learning opportunities that Ron mentioned. This is what they look like, and when someone comes to a station, there's a card like this at the station, and they can access it either physically or digitally, and then they move through the tasks at their own pace and stay at a station as long as they like, based on their needs for their students in their classrooms. So you can look that over further. This did come out of study and reading that I've been doing on professional learning that works. Basically trying to garner information, collect from a variety of sources. What does it look like when professional learning is taken from the thing that you attend or participate in back to the classroom and put into practice in a meaningful way with students, such that learning is improved, such that instruction is improved, and such that our outcomes get better, right? So in that vein, I was trying to find resources to help us do those things more effectively, and I came across Learning Forward's Standards for Professional Learning. And they actually have a book, and I participated in a book study with another instructional coach at Liberal High School. And we read through that book and reflected on together and discussed and collaborated about how we could improve professional learning in our districts. And then from there, we attended the Learning Forward Kansas conference here it was in Wichita last January, and Kyle actually presented at that conference and attended sessions again on what good professional learning looks like. What does it look like when it gets put into practice in classrooms? And then further collaborated with several districts. They're listed there, districts that are thinking outside the box, that aren't just doing sit and get professional learning. And then collected data from our own staff about what topics were of interest to them so that we could offer professional learning on those topics. And then also met with our administration in order to get their perceptions of what their staff needed. What were they seeing as weaknesses in their classrooms? Where were they seeing holes in instruction or learning? And how could we provide professional learning that would fill those holes? And so then this last spring, over January and February, we piloted the flex learning model on an individual basis. And we had 25 teachers who participated in our pilot. And they each took a card, like the one that you saw that we used in 8 Days of Awesome. And there were two different cards for them to choose from. And on their own, 8 of those 25 people completed a card. And then they got back with us and gave us feedback on what the learning looked like. How did it work for them? What did they like about it? What did they not like? What worked well? What did they go put in practice in the classroom? What did they not feel comfortable putting back into practice in the classroom? And from that, one of the big themes that we noticed in their feedback was, I didn't get a chance to talk to anybody about it. I didn't get a chance to discuss and collaborate. I wanted to share with someone else what I was learning. And so that also then influenced our in-person sessions with 8 Days of Awesome. So from there, we had these stations. You can see there were 40 self-paced stations, and those were broken into what's on the next slide, which was 7 different sessions, all under a broader umbrella. And we had 55 different teachers and administrators and support certified staff in the district come and participate, for a total of 113 actual participations. So obviously some of them came more than once. They were gluttons for punishment. They showed up a second time. And they earned 271 professional development credit hours. So each of the sessions was 3 hours long, but it was come and go. So you could come and work through as much of a card or 6 or 7 cards as you liked, but then also you could take the cards with you and do more of the tasks on your own time and in your own way and with other colleagues that maybe weren't there with you that day as well. So these were the 7 umbrella, I guess, broader umbrella of sessions that were developed and that we used twice each during 8 Days of Awesome. I'm going to turn it over. Go. Nope. Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Kyle. Let him chat about the feedback.
And one thing on the topics were picked for, one, off of the results from the surveys, but also in line with the things that we're doing in our district to make sure we're getting the most bang for our buck in the time that we have. So the top 3 are all related to KISA goals and KISA related topics. I know you've heard all about KISA over the last couple of years, but those things that we're trying to do to help get our students where they need to go. But also our tech integration, things with Canvas and getting kids how to use that process, and our Office 365 for our staff so they're using that more effectively. But then also our social emotional initiatives, including CHAMPS and other things like trauma sensitive practices, and then our data analysis of using EduClimber and getting our staff more up to speed in how to use that process or that program. Okay. And then ultimately, when people left, we asked them to let us know what they thought, because, again, we wanted to see is it really worth this time that we're putting into it. Overall, as you can see, a large majority felt like that it met those goals of that it was well planned, it gave them something that they could go back and use in their classroom. But the one thing that it really took, we added a question of, from the content that you learned today, would you have rather had it as station-based or as traditional PD, sit and get, and overwhelmingly 96.7%, all but one person, I believe, shared that they preferred this model or this method of learning, which really shows the power. And the next page shows some of those comments and the power of those. Especially, I like the one at the very bottom where it is, this is the type of PD that professionals want. I feel like I accomplished something valuable for my students today. We always talk about the professional and professional learning, and part of professional is giving them the choice and the autonomy to choose what they want to learn. And with the stations, not only do they get to choose which station do they get to go to and find the one that best fits their classroom, but even within the card, they get to pick the tasks that are most relevant to them. And if they want to stay in that one task and spend all 3 hours working on that and really developing something deep for their classroom, they can. Or if they get into it in 5 minutes and realize, oh, this isn't what I thought it was, they don't have to worry about, now I have to sit here for an hour because I've got to listen to this person talk because I don't want to embarrass them or I don't want to disrespect them by getting up and leaving. They could get up and move and do whatever they needed. And then that collaboration that happened where it was missing from that original Flex pilot, that conversation was able to be very rich and deep with their colleagues, but then also the facilitators that were present. And then both Marie and myself, we made cards, but we also want to thank Lindy McDaniel, who created a card on teacher engagement and how multitasking doesn't really work. Then Andrea Wicker created one on Infinitec, which is an online learning platform for some of our, that focuses on special ed, but it's for all staff. And then Kay Shippey, Mary Straub, Laura Gaughan, and Amy Woodjack, they created some cards related to our reading and writing workshop model. And so without all of that effort, we wouldn't have been able to pull off what we did. So I believe that's everything, right?
It's a lot.
And again, this really, they helped build a vision. I mean,
Oh,
we've
we
talked
do have
about
one
this
more.
for a long time, the vision, knowing what PD needs to be.
Yes.
But for them to take it and run and make it happen. And finding the right 8 days of summer vacation is tough. So we are hoping, with this type of professional learning with the flex style, we could take one of our early release days and everyone has a chance to do it, and then they'll really experience it, because obviously not everyone was available during the summer. So the flexibility of this, or if you have a student as our building admin and they're struggling with something, then they can direct them to this type of PD that's just more individualized. So I can't thank these guys enough, and the teachers that were willing to be part of the pilot. And Kyle, you mentioned what I wanted to mention, the topics. No one here or at any office decides what PD is going to look like for someone else. It really is something where we try to solicit feedback, information, what are the needs, and then design it that way. So asking teachers and then getting the feedback is a part of what we believe needs to be part of the process. Planning and then obviously reflecting at the end. So again, these two are amazing. We're lucky to have them. Really as teachers then, as you sit and do that flex card, you can use those tools then as a teacher with your students to create that type of learning in your classroom, modeling that, and they do an amazing job at that. So I know the front end of building the cards is a lot of work, but I think the 8 days, you guys were just kind of floating around, sipping your coffee, just available. So thank you, Ron, for recognizing them and putting them on the agenda.
And Jen, you pointed out about some of the things that we're doing next. We actually have one more slide I forgot about.
Okay.
Just the follow-up from this is we're going to continue to try and find ways to incorporate flex through the traditional model, or the first way that we did it, but also in trying to do some different pieces. I'm going to let Marie kind of talk. She's been looking at some credentialing type stuff.
Right. We're hoping to make it possible for teachers to recertify in a variety of different manners. And right now, the only way you can get points to recertify is by showing up and sitting and listening to someone talk at you, right? So we did modify that this summer, of course, with the stations, but we hope to do kind of a hybrid of both things, where you do things on your own before you come, and then you do things collaboratively together when you show up in person. So we're considering that. We'll be meeting with our professional development council here in the district in the coming months to look at what that will entail. And then Kyle and I were selected to present at the National Learning Forward Conference in St. Louis in December on all of our work with this.
That's awesome.
Wow, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I want to say that, I'll just jump in here, I'm really excited about this.
Yay.
And I realize you only had time to give us this much deep information, but I really like the way that you gathered information from the survey that you did and looked at the KISA requirements and all that stuff, and developed a really good program from what I understand. I stumbled into one by accident, I think.
Yeah.
Trying to get you
I know, we're trying to get you to do a station,
Another meeting I'd
Mike.
run
I
to,
mean,
right.
negotiations.
And I also want to say that I was reading this and I hyphenated Kyle's name, so now you're known as Carlin Flex.
Oh, good job.
I didn't mean to do that. But thank you very much. Any other comments, folks?
Oh, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I say kudos. This is really great stuff, and I'm glad to see that you looking at it for the just-in-time teaching or just-in-time learning is a fantastic way to keep professional development going with that. And you mentioned you're looking to go forward. Do you have just one question is, are you looking at the actual enduring impact during the school year to come back to some of the people who went through this to see how it played out?
Right, we hope to collect data, especially during first semester, but even on into second semester. We're like literally just emailing, hey, you came to the 8 Days of Awesome and attended the session on personalizing learning in your classroom. And though I'm not sure which stations you stopped at, I would love to hear about how that's impacted the learning and and some of those things with anecdotal things, but also then bringing people back together to discuss what they liked and didn't like, because you just only get so much from a survey, I think.
Okay, because I'd be interested in the enduring
Yeah.
impact, which I think is good.
Sure.
Do you have a target for how many new modules you'd be looking to develop in the next, or cards rather, in the next year?
Not at this point, it's probably more driven by the needs of what comes out of it. So as we're surveying staff or staff are identifying needs,
Right.
we create as we go. But
Definitely.
no goal at this point.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Good work.
Just from a personal standpoint, I actually sat in on one of the, I mean, I did one of the modules. I did Office 365 because I had never experienced, and it was really helpful. I mean, I learned a lot about OneDrive and how to move files, and so it was really, really very good. I think it's also important, and we'll probably bring her back and recognize her later, but Marie was recently selected to be a Microsoft Innovative Educator
expert.
So guys, that's pretty cool to have someone here, and Kyle's probably right behind her. He's pretty good. Yeah. So.
All right.
Very good.
Very good.
Thank you
you
all.
very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I love that. All right, moving on to the next part of the agenda. Reports. We have 2 reports today. Chris Hipp, Western Kansas Special Education Cooperative Update, and District Communication from Ron Wilson, Superintendent. So Chris, you're up.
All right. Shannon's going to project for me, or I'm going to project a little bit. I was initially planning on talking at you, and then after following the PD stuff, or at least have something to look at. So just want to run through a few things. This will be kind of beginning of year kickoff stuff, which includes wrapping up last year, and this will be the first stop. We'll go around and talk to each one of the boards for the member districts as well as we get into the start of the school year. We just want to talk a little bit about wrapping up where we ended the year, FY19, what it looks like financially for FY20, and then a couple of the program, because some info around programming and some of the focus for the co-op this year. So first one is looking at expenses for FY19. We are looking at budgeted versus actual, and really I got this up here for 2 reasons. One, you can see exactly what we spent. So the co-op's operating cost for FY19 was 7.4, almost 7.5 million to work with the students with disabilities throughout all 4 districts and all of the schools within all 4 districts. Showing you also the difference between budgeted and actual, just to emphasize the fact that we do budget a little bit high, and I know Keith has talked about it on multiple occasions. When we're budgeting authority, so how much we could spend. It doesn't mean we're going to spend that much. My mentor, my first few years, his standing advice was, you got to budget enough because you don't know what's going to happen. But if you spend it all, you got to get your resume up to date because it won't be around. And we kind of operate in that mode. We got to budget enough because we don't know what kids' needs are going to be or what staffing needs are going to be. But we also have to protect our carryover and be able to make it into next year and get where we're at. So spent 7.4, almost 7.5 this last year. Here we're looking at what our revenues were for FY19. So in the top left there, 1.29 or 209 in federal money. And that amount, we know, we have a pretty good idea what that's going to be a year in advance. So I know what I'm going to get this year for FY20 in federal money. The next one, and the lion's share of our funding was 3.6 in state money. And as we've talked about before, there's a few different ways that comes, but most of that is based on the number of teachers that we have, the teachers in Paris. So our full-time equivalency of staff. The local revenue, that one I've got it up here, but it's mostly in and out. So there's a few different things that are what we would consider local revenue. We generate some state funds for Part C services. So that's working, they work out of the Hayes Area Children's Center, but they're kind of alongside Hayes Area Children's Center. The Part C services, they're working with kids that are birthed to age 3 before we pick them up at school. So we generate some state funding. But then that flows through to them. So it looks like revenue, but most of that money and that $200,000 is really in and out money. The last one then is the district assessment, and that's what Keith was talking about. Out of your Fund 30, that 1 point whatever it was is your fee to be a part of the district. Or I'm sorry, to be a part of the co-op, just like the other 3 districts all pay fees also. So we got our expenses and our revenues. That gives us lets us calculate where we're at carryover-wise. We started the year last year with 1.7 in carryover. Take out our expenses, add in our revenues. We ended this year at 1.5. So that's down a little bit from what I thought it was going to be. And here's the reason. Our state funding came in about almost $65,000 less than what was anticipated because there were more teachers in the state than what we thought there would be. As we had talked about, I think I've said it before, it happens every year. You hit May and the last reporting period, and all of a sudden, this year there were 200 extra teachers that showed up, hadn't been reported all year long, and then in May they get reported, and so consequently, special ed funding for the state doesn't go down. But the amount that we get, because it's divvied out based on per teacher, goes down. So we were down about $65,000 from what I was hoping carryover would be, and it's because state aid came in lighter than what we thought based on the per teacher allotment. So when we look at coming into FY20, estimating expenses, again, we're budgeting high. So the budget is the far right column. That's what we've published. The left side is a guess at this point without having negotiations and things like that done. We're kind of shooting in the dark a little bit, but I'm guessing we're going to be somewhere in that 7.7, 7.8 in expenditures if all things stay equal. We know our federal money is going to be about 1.2. Again, that doesn't change a whole lot. There's a little bit up and down with Medicaid because that's based on billable hours and the number of kids that are Medicaid eligible, things like that. So it'll go up and down a little bit, but it's pretty solid. State revenue right now, this one you see a giant swing in there because we estimate high on our personnel, but then you actually get paid on what you report. And just so you know, we report, our report doesn't change from April to May. I think we changed to 0.02 FTE from April to May. So, but we do budget high, knowing that we're probably going to be somewhere in that 3.6 based on what staff we're anticipating for the year. And then local revenue is set because, that's mostly that little bit of about 200,000 worth of in and out, but mostly the district assessments. So if things work out that way, we're looking at a little over $1 million in carryover at the end of FY20 going into FY21. Just to give you a little comparison on how that fits in, it's going to be lower than our 5-year average, but we're still at about 1.7 months worth of carryover. So if you look at what we average spending a month, it's around $650,000. Somewhere between 1 and 2 months worth of carryover is good. At this point, though, the dollar amount isn't as important as the trend. And you can see the last 3 years now we're going down. That was one of the reasons we added 5% to the district assessment to slow that downhill trend in carryover. Again, the dollar amount is okay, but the trend of going down, and once you start using your carryover, kind of you double down. You end up down twice as much as you thought the next year. Okay. Just to give a little perspective, the 5% increase in district assessments amounted to a little over $100,000 for the co-op, but we lost $60,000 of that in reduced state aid in May. So our trend of going down is still in place. The increase in district assessments will help level that off, but we're not done with that conversation. I wouldn't anticipate. So, questions, comments so far? Finance things to hit here. We'll go into staffing. So what this is, a whole bunch of numbers up there, but if you look at that top block, that's the last 2 years, and then where we're at this year. So that certified number, that's the certified FTE. So the co-op, 2 years ago, we were at 69 certified, so that'd be teachers, OTs, PTs, speech paths, all those certified folks that take a license. We were at 69, then we went up to 70. This year, it looks like we're taking a big jump, but there's a few things that are kind of hidden in there. 2 of those FTE are Part C services. So they've had open positions for the last couple of years. They finally got them filled. So they're finally fully staffed, and they actually did, the caseloads have gone up enough that they actually added a teacher also. So a couple of that, a little over 2 of that FTE is Part C services, which we just flow that through. A couple of them within ours are positions that looked like they were open because we ended the year without a social worker. We filled that back, so that looks like we had a position. We didn't add a position, we just took us a while to get it filled. We do have in that certified number, there's really 2 new teaching positions that we've added. One at Hayes High, and then one we added a limited apprentice in the co-op, and he'll actually be at Holy Family Elementary because the caseload's got pretty high there. So where we're at with certified paras, the paras of the non-certified, that number tends to go up and down throughout the year depending on student needs. We're starting at about 113 FTE. We ended last year at about 110. So probably won't see a great change there.
Okay.
If you look at the bottom set of numbers, so what I did is went back as far as I had records for, to look at what's our high and what's our low in staffing. And you'll see in 0809, that was our high. We were at 130.98 FTE, so the full-time equivalents of 130 folks working with the 850 kids with disabilities in the co-op. And that number of 8 to 850 stays about the same. That hasn't changed for 2 years. In 15-16, we were all the way down to 94. That's not because that was the best way to provide services, but it was financial. And we're back, so even at 122, which is what I expect our FTE to be this year, we're still below where we were in 0809, and we're, like I said, serving roughly the same number of kids, give or take a handful. The thing that's almost as scary, if you look over there on the far right side, the Cat 8 amount, that's the per FTE amount. In 08, my first year as a director, it was 29.8. They're projecting this year it'll be 29.8. So everything costs the same as it did in 2008, 2009. Oh wait, no it doesn't. But we're getting the same per teacher as we were in 08, 09. So, questions, comments? That's all the number stuff I'll bore you with. But I think it's good to have some perspective on size and volume of the co-op and what carryover looks like there. A couple of things just quickly that we're focusing on this year. As we work, as Kyle and I work through basically setting the agenda for this year, there's 5 things that we focus on at the co-op. The kind of the top and the bottom, what we call the cornerstone is really just that being a professional educator, working with parents and colleagues in the school setting. So that's everything from case management to just being that professional educator. And then we focus on 3 different areas within that. The hands-on with students is the specialized instruction, which is special education. So finding what kids with disabilities, what do they need that's different than everybody else needs in order to be successful, providing that to them, using meaningful assessment to make sure that we know where they're at and if we're making progress to where we need them to be. And then STILIC is an acronym that the district uses, but it's dealing with managing behaviors and being intentional and utilizing some of the key set of tools, the CHAMPS, and dealing with student behavior. So in those 2 areas on the left side, the things that we'll focus on around We Can Cornerstone and case management is our We Can Academy, and that's our new teacher academy. So last year we had 20 new teachers in the special ed co-op, including all of the districts. We bring them in once a month and do specialized training for them, getting them up to speed on not only policies and procedures, but also instruction and running meetings with parents and communicating with parents, things like everything that we can provide to them around what we would call case management. Mentors and ambassadors for our new teachers. Again, we found this year that the mentor relationship is essential for the new person, but also kind of invigorating and a great active professional development for the mentors also. So continuing that. Local professional development, we're looking at a couple of different things. One, using Kyle, it's great having him on the SPED side as well, because using some of the same concepts that he and Maria have been working on, creating PLCs or that same kind of professional learning for special ed staff. It started with our graduates from We Can Academy last year. So the new teachers from last year reached out and said, hey, we want to continue to get together. And so we're using the CARD concept and different ideas for bringing folks together to, whether you're new or not, but giving them a chance to continue to grow in what they started last year with their new teacher academy. And then also spending a little more time getting folks
out of their classroom and into another local expert's classroom, so into another special ed teacher within the co-op, spending some time working professionally in their room with them to see what's working and see what they can take away and what feedback they can give. And then just some toolkits around parent meetings and IEP development, things like that. As far as the instructional piece, working with them on some basic reading intervention, so doing some training, utilizing some of the things that are out of KSDE with letters and Smoky Hill, doing some just good, what is reading instruction, so that they can take that and work within Readers and Writers Workshop within 49, but then also no matter what curriculum they're using, because the other 3 districts use different curriculums. So what is good reading instruction? How do you go use that in whatever the district, whatever the classroom instruction looks like? We were also looking at, we've got a whole bunch of different things that we utilize that are electronic curriculum, things like IXL and Lexia, things within the district, doing some study around those to see which ones actually have impact for our kids with disabilities and what utilization looks like, so we can be efficient and effective in the tools that we provide to the teachers. Our speech paths are running a pilot this year. It's called 3-to-1 model. Basically what that is, so kids that have communication or language disabilities, 1 out of every 3 weeks will be spent working with those kids in the classroom or working with the teachers and the supports that are in the classroom to help with generalization, because we know kids learn best from other kids or when they're around other kids. And so we pull them out in isolation to do direct instruction, but we also want to be able to provide support in that classroom to work on generalization. And then M-Class is a way to, is one of the tools we're using around assessment to provide good snapshot type information that teachers can write IEP goals and be able to report back to parents and show progress, things like that. So instructionally, program-wise, those are what our focuses are this year. Administratively, physical health is always number 1. So we'll continue to talk about that and keep an eye on projections and see where we think we'll be in carryover. Intervention curriculum, just doing some of that follow-up of those different pilots that we're doing, again, to be efficient and effective in the tools that we're giving our teachers. Instructional feedback, Kyle and I have a challenge to get into, we've got a scoreboard and everything with getting into classrooms and just being able to provide administrative support to the teachers. And then we've talked about it before, and it'll come up again in the next few months, but one of the things that we continue to get feedback from teachers and administration is our para work days schedule. So as you know, the paras work less than the instructional length of day. So kids are in school for 6.9, 7 hours, depending on which district you're in, and paras work 28 and 3/4 hours per week. So 5 3/4 hours per day. So we're continuing to work on ways to do that, as we've talked about before, that impact at the health insurance benefit impacts that decision greatly. And so we're going to talk to you, continuing to work on ways to address that. So I guess the final thing I would have is we have our first Council of Superintendents meeting. So we meet roughly monthly with the superintendents from throughout the co-op and run through agenda and so that they can make recommendations to you on everything from staffing to policy and things like that. So we've got our first one coming up next week, so we'll get that ball rolling.
Very good, very good. Any comments, folks, or questions?
Thank you for the update. Really useful.
Actually, I've learned so much today. I'm amazed, but I said this to Chris earlier months ago, that I really do appreciate you being with us, because you explain things very well, and I actually understand a lot of about this much, but it's more than I knew before. And I really appreciate the way you outline things and lay things out for us. So, thanks. All right, Ron, you're up again. District communication.
Okay, I just have a few things I want to share with you. It was a good first week. Well, I say first week, we've only completed our 3rd day, but feel like it seems like we've been through about 3 weeks already. I don't know. Hopefully it's not that way with teachers. Just a quick rundown. I think it's always important to kind of give you an idea of, okay, what are our numbers looking like? Now, the interesting thing about this is, and this seems like something that should be fairly easy to get, of how many kids we are actually having in our schools right now, but you'd be surprised how difficult that really is. We have Power School, which is our student management system and keeps all the numbers. However, what happens is we have students who were in our schools last year but maybe haven't or not there right now, and we don't really know if they're not coming or they're just late in arriving, so that sometimes those numbers are a little inaccurate. But I do have some numbers based on some of enrollment forms that have been completed. And I think it's interesting, right now it looks like we have about 1,415 elementary students that have completed forms. Now, we might have some kids in our schools who actually haven't completed a form. It's very possible. And we're still trying to track all those down. O'Laughlin right now, it looks like they have 375 students. Lincoln Elementary has 213. Roosevelt has 419, and Wilson has 408. So that's a total of 1,415 students. Now, give or take, okay? Give or take on that. Our middle school is full to the gills. Right now, it looks like we have about 677 students in our middle school. So we are busting at the seams. I was there on the first day, and man, I didn't think they were all going to fit in the gym, but they did. It looks like our 6th grade is the booming class of the district, as they have 200, well, actually they're not. They have 244 students in the 6th grade. 7th grade has 228, and 8th grade has 208. Once again, give or take. The high school is, once again, I think, pretty full. They have right now, with completed forms, about 857. And the high school is the one that can really be, kids don't always do a very good job when they get to high school about making sure all their enrollment stuff is done. But it looks like 9th grade we have 246, 10th grade 215, 11th grade 218, and the seniors 178. So that gives us a total of 857. So if you add all those numbers up, we're very close to 3,000 right now. Now there'll be some additional numbers based on some of our other sites, and we'll get you. Once we get closer to September 20th, we'll be able to nail all that down. So I think it's always good to kind of give you an idea of where we're at. But it looks like our numbers are very solid. We did, because of the storms, we have had lots of damage, but probably the place that took the worst damage was right here in this building. The Learning Center, which is housed here at Rockwell, on the other end of the building. That Tuesday night, it had about 3 inches of rain, and inside the building. Basically, it covered your ankles. And part of that crew was here all night, sucking water out down in that area of the. Then Saturday night, we had about 1 inch of water down there in that classroom. So we have decided that we are going to temporarily relocate the Learning Center because it's just a mess, and we got to do some changing. We're planning to do some tuck pointing on that end of the building that will hopefully stop the water from just rushing in. And once we get that done, as well as we're going to have to do some maybe removal of some walls that have been really wet, and try and clean that place up a little bit. So temporarily, we're moving them to Washington, to the new section in Washington where the office area currently used to be. We're going to house them in a classroom, in one of those new classrooms that was part of the last bond issue back in, I believe, 1994. And so they will be temporarily holding court there for a while. So we've kind of had to change course, but it's done because we just got to fix this issue down here in Rockwell before we can, it's too stressful to know that you don't really know the next morning if we have a big rain. And what I'm told is we get anything more than 1 inch of rain, it's going to come, and we're going to suck water out. So we've got to do some fixing there. We did have some good news, and I think this is exceptionally exciting for our district. We were awarded a mental health grant for our middle school. Shanna was very vital in making that application last spring, in working with our middle school staff. And so basically what's going to happen there is we're going to have mental health services right inside of our school, which meaning kids who need mental health support and will be able to not have to leave and go outside of the school. They will be provided, there'll be a therapist that will be on site, and it's just really exciting. One of the great things for our district is we'll actually be adding a staff member, a school liaison who will be working with the mental health center as well as working with the school district to try and coordinate all of everything that goes on with that. And so through this grant, we pay 25% of the cost and the grant pays 75% of the school liaison's salary and benefits. So it's really a great thing for our district. I was part of a mental health pilot project when I was at my last district, and I can't tell you all the positives that came from it. It's just tremendous support for staff as well as students, because sometimes as staff members, you see a kid who is hurting, but you don't really know. You're still trying to teach and still trying to support. This is going to give them another avenue to refer services. And so it's just absolutely awesome. We have,
Can I just add
yeah.
that? And actually, the mental health services won't be this person. We will hire someone that works for the school district, and it'll be a liaison between High Plains Mental Health and USD 49. So
Right.
they will work with the families to get them in touch with the mental health. That could be on campus, but could not. So really, it's been a partnership with High Plains, and Mark Dinkle worked with me, and I know we met with Chris and Kyle too during the application process. And we decided to focus on middle school because we know that transition from elementary to middle school is tough. Our 6th grade, when we look at data, we see a little bit of a dip there. That's tough. And then also as they enter into 9th grade, so this school liaison will focus on foster children primarily, but anyone else who has those needs, to work with the families at the middle school through transition into and then out of middle school to high school. So the grant that we receive, the dollars will be 75% of the salary. So we will be posting that tomorrow. Anyone with any behavioral health background, it could be a social worker, it could be a counselor, hopefully we'll find the right candidate and get quality applicants. But we will be hiring and looking for someone who will then work at the school with the counselor and the staff, but then also work with High Plains Mental Health and be that liaison to provide services when and if they're needed for the family and the student. So we're excited. Someone from the state's going to come out who you work with, right, Ron, and visit with us more about it. So it's a great opportunity.
It's really great.
Phenomenal.
No question. Does that make it free for the students, or do they still have to pay for the services?
No part of the grant makes any services free. We just put them in connection and with the mental health, so they would go through the same process they've always gone through with High Plains. It doesn't pay for any services like that.
There is some tier services, I'm sure, that are available.
Are they?
I see.
I mean, there's the program.
But the benefit is having somebody there at the
It's
middle
an
school,
additional
they
staff
can
member who will
do it
work
there
with-
instead
right,
of
be that
sending a kid off.
coordinator, right, between our team and the High Plains Mental Health, because a lot of times that's where the communication lacks and getting them in touch with the available services. So,
Does the grant include money for an office over there?
that's what
Little
Tom
add-on.
offers us, a portable office. Did that come with the grant? I'm like, no, I don't even think in the fine print I saw that.
Ron has mentioned it's pretty packed to the gills over there already, but
Yeah,
no, it's
it
great.
is.
It's fantastic.
They're excited, and I thank Tom and Shauna for the openness and the council. So I think they'll make space for added staff that can.
I think so, yes.
They'll do that.
Very good.
And just the last thing on that, I think this is, there's only 31 districts in the state who are part of this, and we're one of the 31. So I think that's a credit to Shanna and advocating for kids in our district and taking the initiative to write to grant opportunity and with the staff. And so that's really phenomenal. The last thing I want to share with you is it's a little bit about our presentation on last Monday. I presented to the staff, and maybe you've heard some things. I don't know if you have or not, but I have a new title. I'm Ron Wilson, bus driver. And you might hear that around different places if you talk to any staff members. As I've been in schools this week, I've heard that a lot as Ron Wilson, bus driver. In fact, I walked into a 2nd grade classroom today, and they said, Mr. Wilson, the teacher told me, Mr. Wilson, we're driving our bus today. So just to kind of clue you in a little bit, I presented to staff this image that, you know, as the superintendent, I am kind of driving this big USD 489 bus, and the idea is to get everyone going in the right same direction. And you know, we started school last Thursday, and we'll end school sometime in May, and how far we get depends upon how fast we go, what direction we go, and if we're not making left turns when others need to go right. And so the image was about, you know, I need everyone in the district to be a bus driver. And everyone needs to drive their bus. We need to move kids. And that was the presentation to staff. And it was based upon what's going to move our kids is the four values, the four core values that I really want to see be a part of almost every discussion that we have. And I think as board members, I wanted to take some time to share with you, because I think it's just as important for you as board members to have these core values and understand how important it is in your role, in your capacity, to help move kids. And in a sense, I want you guys to be bus drivers as well. And so, you know, there are four core values, and the first one's pretty obvious. You know, we will be a champion for all kids. And I think at the board table, anytime you make a decision, I really want you to think about how is this decision helping kids, and how can it help kids? You know, anything that we decide or have to take action on, figure out, does this really help kids? And if it does, hopefully you can support that, because that is part of getting our bus moving in the right direction. The other core value that I shared with staff was to bring your best every day. You know, and I think as staff members, that's pretty self-explanatory. We need your best. I think as board members, you know, when you come, and want to make sure that you bring your best and understand the mission about what we're trying to get and get accomplished. And so I think that's an important core value for everyone. The third core value that I shared with staff is carry your banner for your school and district, just like I shared with the football team and what they did for our school and our district in representing by cleaning up. I think that follows us as board members. You know, we have to be a positive light in leading our district, and I think that's very important that we remember that core value in all of everything that we do. And then the last one, and this one you might think, well, we don't, I don't know if we as board members we have a lot of, you know, pull on this, but the last one is sell possibilities and opportunities to kids about their futures. Well, I really do think as a board member, that's probably right down your alley as far as what you have the ability to do. Because when we start looking at new programs, new opportunities, you know, you as a board members have the biggest impact in making sure that we can create the best opportunities, best possibilities for kids in this community. And I think that's really what I want to instill in the district, is that these core values are going to drive our bus. And not only is it Ron Wilson bus driver, it's, you know, Mandy bus driver, Sophie bus driver, Luke bus driver, Mike, Lance, Paul, we're all bus drivers, and in kind of a funny way. So this is the message that we have shared in the district. It's a message that it's not going to go away. I'm going to keep driving it home. They're probably going to get tired of hearing me talk about these core values, because I think to get our vision, and when I talked and we worked the other day about at our last work study session about the vision of our students, high student achievement, highly effective staff, maximizing our resources, as well as positive and effective communications. In order to get that vision, and truly that's where our bus is headed, and the mission to get there, and that's just finding the right road, what roads we got to get on. We've got to have that core value, and it always just helps us move. So to end my presentation, I'm giving you, and this is the first time, I'm giving you bus driver pins, bus driver lapel pins with the little message. I'll give you 3 more there. Sorry there.
Sorry.
You don't have to wear the lapel pin, but this is just a little reminder that really want you to be a bus driver. Actually, what I'd really like for you to do is if you would leave the card, you can take the lapel pin, but if you'd leave the card at your desk, I think we're going to tape that right at your spot. And as we work out throughout this year and in the coming years, that's always a constant reminder that we are driving the bus. We are moving kids towards their futures. And so I appreciate the opportunity to share this with you. I think it's an important message, and the message I wanted to make sure you as board members heard. So that's it on my report.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't talk about the pictures.
Yeah,
Well, I figured I had to have some kind of visual because Chris had visuals, so yeah. So I don't have numbers, but we did a little activity. If you'll see me up there, I'm not really driving the bus, I'm trying to pull the bus, but the idea is we got to move the bus. And as a superintendent, if I can't move the bus by myself, and so if you'll see, I believe that's Mike. I asked Mike to join me to see if myself and Mike could get the bus moving. No, we couldn't get the bus moving. And then I added in Shannon, Chris, and Keith, I believe, and maybe someone else, I don't know, but we couldn't get the bus moving. And so if you'll see the last couple photos, you'll see the staff all joined us in moving the bus together. Just kind of a little simulation as that we're moving this bus, and to get it to move, we all got to be on the bus together, and we all got to be working these core values and get it moving in the same direction. It was kind of a neat activity, and I think that it really made an impact with staff.
That's fun. It was a good presentation that you gave, and also it was kind of fun to be out there.
Thanks.
I want to point out to everyone that Ron Wilson, bus driver, comes from the 2005 movie Sky High.
Yeah.
So if you don't know the reference, you check out the movie.
Yeah.
I briefly, when I had my kids come over to visit, I didn't have internet yet. We had two movies. One was Stargate, and they weren't interested in that. The other was Sky High, so I've probably seen that 15 times.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
All right. Thank you very much, Ron, for all that information, and for Chris, too. Next item on the agenda is board president appointments. I updated working with Jess, we updated the table that we saw earlier. It was too confusing for me, so I worked with Jess on this one and highlighted the different committees, and this table can be added to, of course, if necessary. We brought this up in the meeting before, but I'm just pointing out today that the appointees are Dr. Paul Adams for the Early Childhood Connections Policy Committee, same as last year. I'll continue to be the board member for the Hayes Area Children's Center. Sophia's agreed to continue being the KASB convention representative. Lance will continue to be on the USD 49 Foundation for Excellence board. Luke has agreed to join the Hayes Recreation Commission board. We haven't had a board member on there for a while, I don't believe. And Lance Bickle has agreed to join to represent the board as a board member on the technology committee. Now, if there's other committees that come up and we need board members to be on, we'll discuss that. But that's a good. Any objections, anyone? Okay. No, I did speak to folks ahead of time, so they know I was doing this. All right, let me get back to the top of my page here. All right, next item, discussion items. Ron, back to you again. Upcoming work study sessions.
Yeah, I just wanted to run this by the board. Kind of tentatively set up our work study sessions. The first meeting of each month will be our work study session. One of the things in talking to the board members, I'd ask, have you been doing building tours? And the message that I got back is we really haven't done building tours. And I think sometimes when we start talking these facilities, it's important that you guys know exactly what we're talking about and some of these issues. And also it's a good time to see some of the things that you've done as a board to make improvements. So I've set up a tentative schedule, September being at Hayes Middle School and coordinating it with our actual work study session. Board docs training, I would hope to have that coordinated so we can do it in September. I've been in connection with board docs, and well, they're bringing in a trainer from outside. I haven't been able to confirm with her officially that we can be September 9th, but I'm hopeful that we can coordinate that. So we'll do a tour of Hayes Middle School and also do board docs training that night. October, I've set up for Hayes High School, and we'll tour the CTE Pathways classrooms and have some discussions about what we're doing there. November, I have at Wilson Elementary, and we'll have some building and grounds and transportation discussions. January, December is only a one meeting month, and so we won't have a December work study session. January is Lincoln Elementary. We'll talk food service and technology. And February at Laughlin, and we'll talk KISA. And then March and April are still up in there. Now this is just a tentative list. We can be shuffling them here or there, but I kind of wanted to run it by the board. Once again, if you have any suggestions or things that you're interested in having a work study session about, please let me know, and we can try to make that work.
Very good. At this point, are there any other items that board members would like to see on the agenda in the future?
I guess I'd kind of like to know how the Oak Park was worked out with the new move-in.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess we didn't have the report. Matt was not here this evening. Everything is, we had kids today for the first, there are still a few little glitches, but the staff's been amazing. Things are really looking good there and kind of falling into place. It's going to be a while before it's all, I think someone said it well. Once we get up and fully running full speed, it's going to be a great place. It's just going to take a little while. I mean, we still have some construction issues in the kitchens with some plumbing that we're still trying to work out. I think we're still doing some with the phones. We do have phones, but it's not in every spot yet. But it's really overall today was the actual first day with kids. So, and we talked to Donna this afternoon, and she was still. I'm still optimistic. She wasn't dragging too much, so I think it's going well.
Good. Very good. All right, let's move on to the next item, executive session. I move the Board of Education recess into executive session under the appropriate exemption to the Kansas Open Meetings Act pursuant to the employee negotiations exemption. The subject to be discussed during the executive session is negotiations between the Board of Education and the Hayes NEA. Open discussion will resume at, how much do you think, 30 minutes, or do we need? Okay. 30 minutes from now, plus a few minutes, okay, so at 8:40. Those persons in this room here, those persons to attend, in addition to the board, are superintendent, assistant superintendent, director of special education, budget director. Okay. That's my motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay.
We'll go to the master teacher.